What do you do when the person who vowed to love you in sickness and in health walks away the moment you can no longer stand? When your best friend becomes your betrayer and your future collapses overnight? Leah Hayes thought she'd lost everything, her body, her marriage, her dignity, until a single letter arrived and changed her life forever. A hidden inheritance, $100 million. But the real power wasn't in the money, it was in how she used it. This isn't a story about revenge, it's about resilience. About how a woman the world dismissed rose from ruin and built something unstoppable, not out of bitterness, but out of purpose. They say you don't truly know who someone is until you have nothing to offer them. And for a long time, Leah Hayes believed she had everything. A loving marriage, a charming husband, a cozy apartment above the bakery she built with her bare hands. But life has a cruel way of testing what love is really made of. Because the moment her body broke, so did his promises. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about reinvention. About how the woman everyone pitied became the woman no one saw coming, not even herself. And the man who walked away, he never realized the gold he left behind. Until it was far, far too late. Leah had always been the kind of woman you noticed, not because she was loud or glamorous, but because of how she carried herself, steady, bright, a kind of person who knew your coffee order and remembered your dog's name. At 5 a.m. every morning, she was already at Hayes and Honey, the bakery she opened with her own savings. Her cinnamon rolls had their own reputation. Her smiles made regulars feel like family. And every morning she packed lunch for her husband, Cole. From the sidewalk, people saw the two of them as the perfect couple, she in her apron, flour-dusted and cheerful. He in button-down shirts and polished shoes, waving from the window with his movie star grin. But like all good illusions, it was only convincing if you didn't look too closely, because Cole hadn't worked a real job in over 2 years. He floated from vague business talks to dead-end meetings, always blaming the economy or claiming he was waiting for something better. Leah didn't complain, not out loud. She believed in love, in support, in patience. But love, the real kind, isn't about waiting for someone to become who they used to be. It's about growing together. And quietly, Leah knew they weren't growing. Cole was drifting. And she was the anchor, the one who kept everything moving, until the day her whole world stopped on a slick stretch of road. The crash was sudden. She never saw the delivery truck. Just a screech, a flash of white, and then black. She woke up to the sterile scent of antiseptic, blinking under fluorescent lights, unable to move her legs. The nurse told her she'd been lucky. The doctor told her she might never walk again. And when Cole finally entered the room, pale, shaken, but trying hard to smile, Leah noticed something small and terrifying. He hesitated before touching her hand. That was the first crack. And the rest came fast. The bakery closed. The bills stacked high. Cole withdrew more and more, sleeping on the couch, staying out late, always reeking of cologne that Leah never used to buy for him. He stopped kissing her forehead. He stopped asking how her therapy went. One night, he walked in late, his shirt unbuttoned, his eyes bloodshot, and Leah said, simply, "I miss you." And Cole, after a long silence, replied, "It's hard for me too," as if her paralysis was just inconvenient, But what Cole didn't know was that Leah had already started to sense the truth. That the nights he claimed were drinks with clients were actually whispers in hallways. That the woman she once called her best friend, Jade, had stopped calling not out of distance, but out of guilt. It was a Thursday when she heard them. Quiet voices outside her bedroom. Jade, she's asleep. Cole, I can't do this anymore. She's not who I married. Leah didn't cry, not then. She rolled herself silently away from the door, her hands trembling, her chest hollow. Grief doesn't always show up in funerals. Sometimes it's a single sentence you can never unhear. The next morning, she asked him directly, "Are you seeing someone else?" Cole grabbed his keys and said, "You need to focus on yourself." "Leah, I can't do this anymore." And then he was gone. Jade disappeared too. There's a certain kind of heartbreak that doesn't come with shouting or slamming doors. It arrives quietly, in the way no one calls anymore, in the silence that follows betrayal, in the hollow ache of days that don't matter to anyone but you. Leah Hayes knew that ache well. After Cole and Jade vanished from her life like dust, shaken off their shoes, she was left alone in a dark apartment filled with memories that mocked her. Her bank account dwindled. The rent was overdue. And every time she looked at her wheelchair, she felt like a prisoner in her own skin. But even the smallest flame refuses to die in total darkness. And one day, when the envelope arrived from Reynolds and Sons Legal Services, she didn't throw it away, though she wanted to. Her first instinct was that it was another bill, another hassle, another reminder that her life was crumbling. But that night, as she sat in the quiet kitchen with a lukewarm mug of peppermint tea, she opened it. The letter said her great-uncle, a man she barely remembered, had passed away, and that she had been named in his will. At first, Leah laughed bitterly. She assumed it would be a trinket, a dusty clock, maybe some vintage coins. But something in the wording felt unusual. "Please contact us at your earliest convenience. Matters of significance to discuss." Significant. That word echoed. When she finally called, a kindly woman on the phone offered to arrange transportation to the firm's office. "We're more than happy to accommodate," she said. "Your uncle had specific instructions. You were to be treated with great care." The next morning, a sleek black sedan pulled up in front of her apartment. The driver helped her into the vehicle without making her feel weak. She hadn't felt seen in weeks. It shook something loose in her chest. The office smelled of old wood and lemon polish. Mr. Harold Reynolds, a tall, silver-haired man with a voice like warm gravel, greeted her with a firm handshake and a gentle nod. "Miss Hayes," he said, "you may not remember your uncle, but he remembered you. Spoke of you often." Leah's eyes narrowed. "We weren't close." "I was just a kid." Mr. Reynolds smiled. "He admired your strength, and he believed you'd need this one day." Then he opened the folder. The amount made her breath catch. In her throat, $100 million. $100 million, not a typo, not a dream. A cold, hard fact printed in clear legal language, backed by investments, accounts, and decades of compound interest. Her uncle had been a quiet financial genius, and now she was his sole heir. She didn't scream. She didn't even smile. She sat there, eyes wide, as the weight of it dropped into her lap like a crown made of bricks. "There's one condition," Mr. Reynolds continued. You must keep the inheritance secret for 6 months. During that time, you can access a modest monthly stipend for necessities, but no announcements, no windfalls. He wanted to protect you from opportunists, from wolves. Leah nodded slowly. She knew exactly what kind of wolves he meant. She had been married to one. Back home, she stared out the window, heart thudding. She didn't tell anyone. Not her landlord, not the nosy neighbor down the hall. Certainly not Cole, but even with that secrecy, the tiniest things began to shift. She paid her rent early, hired a part-time nurse, replaced the broken heater, and for the first time since the accident, she cooked. Not just microwave dinners, real meals, roast chicken, fresh scones. The smells wafted through the building like a secret prayer. Then the wolves returned. First, a text from Jade. "Hey, I know things have been rough. Let me know if you need anything." Leah stared at the screen, then deleted the message. The next night, there was a knock. Cole, hair slicked back, expensive cologne, empty eyes. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice soft, rehearsed. "I made a mistake, Lee. I wasn't myself. Jade and it wasn't real." He knelt by her chair, like a sinner begging forgiveness in a church he'd burned down. "Please," he whispered, "let me come home." Leah's voice shook, but not from fear, from clarity. "You didn't just walk away. You watched me fall, then turned your back." Cole's smile cracked. "Is there someone else?" he asked sharply. "Is that why you're cold?" Leah blinked. "No, I just remembered who I was before I loved you." He exploded, red in the face. "You'll regret this. Don't come crawling back when the money runs out." And with that, he was gone. Again. Leah didn't cry after she closed the door on Cole. Not because it didn't hurt, but because she had finally crossed a line she couldn't uncross. The moment you stop waiting for people to come back and start choosing yourself instead. For the first time in years, she wasn't chasing after an apology or mourning a version of her life that never truly existed. She had no interest in proving anything to the people who once watched her struggle and walked away. Her focus shifted inward, toward recovery, toward peace, and toward the question that now kept her up at night. What am I going to do with all of this? The secret of the inheritance sat heavy in her chest. There was power in knowing she could afford anything, new legs, a new apartment, a new identity if she wanted. But there was also responsibility. Her uncle hadn't just left her a fortune, he left her a test. Would she let wealth harden her or allow it to rebuild her? Leah decided it had to mean something. All of it, the crash, the abandonment, the solitude. If she was still standing, even if only on wheels, then she had to make the next chapter count. But the wolves weren't done with her yet. Jade returned, this time in person, hair curled, lipstick perfect, smile fragile. She brought pastries, and that fake compassion that always tasted like ash. "Leah," she began, "I know I hurt you, but we were both lost. Cole said you were pushing him away. I believed him. I'm sorry." Leah watched her closely. The way she fidgeted, the way her eyes scanned the apartment, clocking the subtle upgrades, the new wheelchair cushion, the fresh flowers. And then came the question she'd been waiting for. "I heard you came into some money from your family?" Leah said nothing. Jade leaned in. "I was thinking." Maybe we could partner on a business. You've always been the talented one." Leah almost laughed. "I'll think about it," she replied, her voice even. But she already knew her answer. Later that day, Leah received another visit. Michael. Not a ghost from her past like Jade or Cole. Michael was her childhood friend, someone who used to ride bikes with her down Main Street and trade jokes behind the church pews. He brought her daisies. "Real ones. Heard you were still baking," he said, smiling. "Thought these might brighten your table." She smiled, for real this time. Michael didn't ask what had happened with Cole. He didn't press about her money. He just talked about silly things, about books, about how the town had changed, and most importantly, about how much she had inspired him. "You're still fighting," he said, "and that means something." For the first time since the accident, Leah felt warm, not from sunlight, but from being seen. The weeks that followed were slow but steady. Leah used her small monthly advance carefully. She paid off her debts, bought groceries, and then one afternoon, in a burst of confidence, she launched a small online shop. Homemade cookies, mini cakes, and her signature cinnamon rolls. At first, there were 5 orders, then 15, then 50. The scent of butter and cinnamon filled her kitchen like Hope. Michael helped with the deliveries, joking that he was her delivery man/security team. He built her a website, carried boxes when her arms ached, and never once asked what she could give him in return. It was Jade and Cole who became curious again. Neighbors started whispering about Leah's rebound, the deliveries, the energy, the light in her window at midnight. And so the calls resumed. Cole's messages were cryptic at first. "How are you? You okay?" Then came the suspicion. "You win the lottery or something." Leah ignored them all. Then Rachel, Jade, showed up one last time, looking drawn and nervous. "We're about to lose the apartment," she said quietly. "Cole's out of work. I'm out of options. Could you help?" "Just until we get back on our feet." Leah didn't yell. She didn't slam the door. She just met her former best friend's eyes and said, "You left me when I had nothing. Now that I have something, you think I owe you? I don't." Rachel looked shattered. "You've changed." Leah shook her head. "No, I finally remembered who I was." That night, Michael stayed late. He helped package orders, laughed when Leah dropped an entire tray of shortbread. And then, over chamomile tea, he said, "You're building something new, Leah. Not just a business, a life." And she realized he was right. She wasn't just surviving. She was living again. 6 months passed, not in a blur, but in a slow, deliberate unfurling, like the rising of dough under a tea towel, unseen but undeniable. Leah kept the secret of the inheritance buried beneath layers of modesty and determination. She told no one about the full amount. Not her landlord, not her customers, not even Michael. Because some wealth screams and some wealth whispers. Hers was silent power, the kind that didn't need to prove anything. When the final letter came from Mr. Reynolds, office confirming that the full estate had officially transferred into her name, Leah didn't dance or cry. She sat still. In the quiet of her little apartment, she stared at the number and let it become real. $100 million. Enough to erase her pain, sure. But more than that, enough to give other people a second chance, just like the one she'd had. to carve out of ash. Michael visited that morning, as he often did, bringing coffee and fresh sunflowers. Leah held up the letter with trembling hands. "It's official," she said softly. "It's all mine now." Michael blinked. "Leah, that's incredible. What are you going to do?" She smiled, that same gentle smile she used to give. Customers at 5:30 a.m., but this time it carried fire. "I'm reopening the bakery. Bigger, brighter, but it won't just be for me. I'm starting a foundation for people like me, people who've been left behind and need to feel human again." Within days, she signed a lease on a sunlit corner building downtown, the kind of place she used to dream about when she first opened Hayes and Honey. Contractors arrived. Paint swatches appeared. Leah oversaw everything from her wheelchair. With calm precision, clipboard in hand, her notes detailed, her vision sharp. But she didn't stop there. She hired intentionally a single mother who had just left a shelter, a disabled veteran looking for structure, a teenager on probation with baking talent but no resume. Each one of them looked at her with the same disbelief she had once worn, like a coat. And Leah told them the truth. "Someone gave me a second chance. I'm just passing it forward." The opening day was unlike anything she had known. A line wrapped around the block. Cameras came. Reporters asked questions. Someone tweeted, "The woman who came back from nothing just created the most inclusive bakery in the state." She stood in front of the counter, apron crisp, cinnamon in the air, and spoke clearly. "I lost everything once, but I got back. Up with help. This bakery is for anyone who's been told they don't belong. This foundation is for anyone who needs a little hope." And somewhere, inevitably, Cole and Jade saw the news. By now, their lives had fallen apart. Their savings were gone. Their apartment repossessed. Cole worked odd jobs he hated. Jade blamed him for everything. They fought in circles. And then, one day, desperate and clinging to scraps of dignity, they showed up at Leah's new shop. She was in the back, reviewing grant applications when a knock at the office door caught her attention. There they stood, ragged, awkward, and pretending not to be shocked by how polished the place looked. Cole tried to smile. "You look amazing, Leah. Really. We just wanted to talk." Leah leaned back slowly. "Talk?" Jade stepped forward, voice thin. "We're sorry for how we treated you. We're in a bad place. We were hoping you might forgive us. Maybe help us get back on our feet." Leah looked from one to the other. "You left me when I had nothing," she said evenly. "And now you're here because I have something. You didn't come back for me. You came back for what you thought I'd give." Cole's face darkened. "That's not fair. You know what it's like to be desperate." Leah nodded. "I do. That's why I would never do to someone what you did to me." Jade's eyes welled. "Please. We have nowhere else to go." Leah paused, then gently, firmly, "You have each other." "That's more than I had." Cole's mask cracked. "You're nothing without that money." Leah smiled. "I was already something before the money. You just didn't see it." She pressed the intercom button. "Security will show you out. I wish you peace, but you're not welcome here." As the door shut behind them, Leah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding for years. It wasn't vengeance. It was release. That afternoon, as sunlight pooled through the shop's windows and the smell of sugar danced in the air, Michael sat beside her with a cookie in one hand and a clipboard in the other. "You handled that like royalty," he said. Leah chuckled. "I'm not bitter, Michael. I just don't have time for ghosts." He took her hand. "You deserve every joy that's coming." And for the first time since the accident, Leah allowed herself to believe it. Leah never imagined that the same kitchen where she once cried over unpaid bills would become the headquarters of a movement. But that's what it became. New Bloom Bakery was more than a shop. It was a sanctuary. The scent of fresh bread, vanilla, and hope clung to every wall. Employees once told, "You're too broken," now wore aprons embroidered with their names and worked with pride. Customers didn't just come for pastries. They came for stories. For the feeling that second chances are real and maybe even. Sweet Dot, she kept the foundation small but mighty. No red carpet galas, no flashy announcements. Just quiet grants to women rebuilding their lives. Tuition support for single parents. Food vouchers mailed anonymously. Wheelchair ramps installed in forgotten buildings. She never tied her name to any of it. Leah believed in change that didn't need a spotlight. The press kept asking for interviews. She gave one, just one. In a simple studio, wearing a black sweater and a soft smile, she told the truth. "I lost everything, my health, my marriage, my best friend. But I gained something better, clarity. And now I just want to help people survive long enough to see who they can become." The clip went viral. People from all over the country sent letters. A mother who read Leah's story at a shelter in Denver and started baking again. A teenager from Atlanta who built a ramp for his disabled neighbor after watching her speech. Leah read every message. She wept. She smiled. She responded to every single one. Michael became more than a delivery driver. He became the quiet heartbeat of her days, always present, never demanding. He celebrated every small win, from a thank you card sent by a mom in Milwaukee to the one-legged veteran who returned to the bakery just to say, "You gave me purpose." Michael never pushed. But one Sunday, over tea and toasted almond cake, he said, "Leah, you've changed lives. But do you know you've changed mine too?" Leah looked at him, eyes soft. "You saw me when no one else did." "I always did," he replied. They didn't rush into anything. Leah was too wise for whirlwind romances. But she didn't flinch when Michael reached for her hand at a charity auction. She didn't shy away when he asked if she wanted to meet his parents again, properly this time, without the awkwardness of a hospital backdrop. Slowly, they stitched a new chapter together. Not perfect, but honest. Meanwhile, Cole and Jade faded into the margins. They drifted from town to town, blame clinging to them like smoke. Every time they saw Leah's name mentioned in a new article, they swallowed the truth like vinegar. They had gambled on Leah's weakness, and lost too. Her strength. One autumn evening, Leah rolled through the bakery just after closing. The light from the street lamps made the windows glow amber. She checked the day's receipts, straightened a photo of her uncle on the wall, and listened to the faint hum of the refrigerator. Then she walked, yes, walked, with braces and a cane, slowly but steadily, across the kitchen floor. Her physical therapist had cried when she took her first 10 steps. Leah had just smiled. It wasn't about miracles. It was about movement. Forward dot in the front window sat a framed quote from her uncle, carved into wood. Let her use my gift to make the world softer. She had, and she would keep doing it. Later that night, she and Michael sat beneath a quiet sky on her apartment balcony, hot tea in hand, a blanket draped over their legs. You know, he said, you've built something they can't tear down. Leah nodded. And I'm not done yet. Resilience isn't built in sunlight, it's forged in shadow. Leah's story reminds us that strength doesn't always look like loud comebacks or public revenge. Sometimes it's quiet boundaries, new beginnings, and choosing kindness even when bitterness would be easier. Those who abandon us when we fall don't deserve to be part of our rise. And when we stop chasing closure, we start becoming whole.